Missed you so much, and now you're back here in your Feel Good Breakfast Show, and now we just have to discuss something very, very important. Now, Afrikaans radio station RSG are hosting an audio documentary series of 13 episodes each. The aim of these documentaries is to create social awareness regarding current topics, milestones, forgotten communities, and people and important literary figures. These documentaries air on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. on RSG. And joining us today is documentary maker and extraordinaire, also my friend, Martelize Brink is here. And there's an episode, it's titled Vlug, waar, which translates to a feeling to where. And this sheds light on the lives of refugees and the reasons they flee their countries. And this is why we're here today. Now, first and foremost, a documentary series of this caliber is amazing. But welcome, Martelize.
Hello, morning.
Yo.
It's too early, man. It's too early.
It's perfect. It's been so long since I've seen you, but at the same time, you're doing some great work at RSG here, putting a spotlight on certain things that I think we kind of forget.
Yeah.
You know, we live very busy lives, but in terms of choosing these stories and narratives to pick up and lift, to put into that place at 8 p.m. on Thursday nights on RSG here, I want to know a bit more about why you chose this story.
Yeah.
I think it's powerful because we know the plight of refugees across the world. Why this story?
I think it's an important topic because we don't always know that much about it. You compare, for example, refugees to general immigrants, for example, completely different, same but different groups.
Yes.
You know, all refugees are immigrants, not all immigrants are refugees, for example. So I remember many years ago I was touring through Tanzania with a group, and we drove past a refugee camp, and it's just tents as far as your eyes could see.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this documentary in terms of South African refugees for 10 years. So the idea has been in my head to cover that because we've had some issues here in the Cape Town centres, for example, the challenges of refugees. I mean, one of the projects started because a person literally died of hunger in a line waiting to, apply for asylum. That person, learned of this story and then decided to start the organisation.
Yes.
One of the social workers from that organisation. As part of the documentary, I was part of 2 television documentaries about the refugees from Ukraine. Spoke to these ladies that fled their country. They can't speak a word of English. I interviewed them in the Netherlands. They can't speak a word of Dutch, never mind, or English, never mind Dutch.
Oh my goodness.
So you get to this country, and I think there's been, if you go to YouTube and you Google refugees, Ukraine is I think 90% of the content, but we forget what's happening in places like Syria. DRC is a massive issue.
Yes.
That was one of the big, problem areas that came up in the documentary. Sudan. So these are people who are voiceless. They have no power, and you're fleeing horrific circumstances.
Is there a story that sticks out to you that you can just share that'll give us a little tantalizer for the documentary?
Yeah. It's very difficult to give a tantalizer because it's such a sensitive.
Yes.
The stories are so difficult that the social worker didn't want to give details. She said she just doesn't share the stories. You've got kids watching this Sunday morning, but I mean you have people that are attacked in the country they're fleeing from. Then they get attacked en route to the country they're fleeing to. Then they get attacked in the country. Where do you report to?
Yeah.
If you want to be integrated into a society. You don't want to make waves, and I'll try and state it indirectly. The one lady has 3 kids. All 3 are a result of these incidents.
Oh, okay.
Now she doesn't register them because PTSD. You've got avoidance. You don't want to focus on the topic or what you've been through. And then they don't register them. Then they have to because you need to get the kids to get access to education and to medical aid, for example.
Yes.
You've got administrative issues that Dr. Kavuro points out in the documentary where someone flees. Now, I think, okay, Cape Town might be a good choice. I flee to Cape Town with my 3 kids and my wife. You get here, they say, no, sorry, you need to apply in Pretoria. Now, that person doesn't have money to travel back to Pretoria because they don't have the resources. They stay here in the end illegally, and when they need to register for something, they say, but why? What are you doing here? Why didn't you go back? So there are many levels to the story that I think is important for people just to know about.
And thank you for your sensitivity as well. It shows me that there's a lot of purpose and care in the content, which is very, very important for these people's lives. What is the hope? When somebody hears the documentary, I'd like to know what the hope is because, number one, audio documentary, there's something powerful about it. It's a conversation whispered in somebody's ear as opposed to showing the visuals. And I think that's the power of it as well. But for you, when somebody hears this, What would you like them to take away from it? Maybe the bigger organizations as well. What's the dream?
Yes. So organizations like the Scalabrini Center is doing amazing work. Funding is always a massive issue. The one organization needed to give up their trauma counseling because of funding problems. So I think the main message that came from all three social workers I spoke to, you can't really, I speak to 2 refugees, but they don't really want to share their stories.
Yeah, I understand.
It's very difficult, and the organizations really protected refugees as well. So they won't bring someone who, who might get in trouble or whatever the case may be, or go through trauma again. So the message is also from Minister Leon Schreiber was, let's judge the individual. Let's, see who is here illegally and just want to come make some money, and who is really here because they are fleeing atrocities. And I know the problem, of course, in South Africa is we have our own problems. And I think that's why I asked that question, because a lot of people go, well, let them go back to their country, solve their stuff there. We've got our problems. Resources is a problem for people. We've got our resources, it's limited. So I understand people's reluctance to accept the plight of refugees. But so the one social workers, the last word is just judge, treat the person with respect and judge the person and look at their circumstances.
Martelize, thank you so much for the great work in this documentary. We know it's so important. The series is important on RSG, 8 p.m. Thursday evenings. That this evening, Vlug, waar. I think it's going to be something that you're going to have to listen to, focus in on. It's got power and great foundation and great research as well. A must hear for you, 8 p.m. this evening on RSG.